we have three, so we can't have
That's right.
We're safe. We're safe.
So we'll push forward. One other thing we talked about last night was that the Seder night is referred to as the Leil Shimurim. It's a night that Hashem guards the Jewish people. And so because of that, it has halachic implications that we don't need to say anything more than Hamapil and Shema in the first parsha, if you have to. Also, some are noheg to keep the door unlocked Seder night, but do whatever you feel comfortable with. We said there's no need to worry about zugos today because if people don't believe in them strongly, then they don't have the power to come attack us. But the main purpose of why we're learning it, number one, it's in Shas, but the lesson behind it is, as my wife says, there are undercurrents of the universe that are beyond our comprehension. The best one is Hashem himself. So the more we train our minds to realize that there's something that's not there, or something that is there that doesn't appear to be there, then that would be so great for us. Okay, so we're starting from Kuf Yud Aleph, Aleph, I believe, right? So we're talking about the different types of liquids that can join together for zugos. One opinion we were just talking about between beer and wine. Now we're just going to talk about different types of water that will join together. So we say on the bottom of the last amud that any type of drink will join together, starting at the top, Kuf Yud Aleph. On Aleph it says Chutz Min HaMayim. Unless you're talking about water. Water is not considered halachically chashuv, it's not going to join. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Afilu Mayim. Even water. Amar Papa Lo Amrin El Chamimit Legu Kariri. Kariri Legu Chamimi. It's only going to make a difference if you have hot going into cold or cold going into hot water. Ava chamimi legu chamimi, the kariri legu kariri low. But if you have hot water and hot water, or cold water and cold water, then it's not going to join as a separate beverage to get you out of zugos or to get you into zugos. Amr Shlakish, arbet devarim ha'osa osan dama barosho, mischai benavsho. There's 4 different things that are going to get a person into trouble that could cause their loss of life. Eluhain. Hanifne bein deka lakosel. If you would use the restroom, not in the restroom, but you would do it between a palm tree to the wall, so that would make ruach ra, some type of evil spirits, would then be able to come attack you. Number 2, it says va'over bein shnei tekalim. If you walk in between 2 palm trees, that's also a little bit problematic. V'hashos mayim she'ulin. If you're drinking from borrowed water, va'over amayim shfuchin. And if you pass over water that was poured, even if your wife poured the water in front of you, then walking over it could attract shadim that would attack you. It says, Bein deka lekosel, what we said before, walking between a palm tree and a wall would be a problem. Lo amrin, el de leisle arba amos. It's only problem there's not arba amos, 4 steps basically, in between the tree to the wall, because that's when the shadim don't have any other way to pass, so they're going to come attack you. But if there are 4 amos for the shade to get by around you, then we don't have to worry. Even when we said it's a problem if there's not 4 amos, it's only a problem if there's no other way for the shadim to go. But if there is another path, then don't worry about it. But over bein shnei dekalim. So this that we said about walking between 2 palm trees, lo arin el lo paskina rishus harabim. That's only where you're not breaking through into the rishus harabim that they can come attack you. Ava paskina rishus harabim leislan ba. But if you are walking through the rishus harabim, so we say that shadim are scared, they're not going to attack you in public. Hashosa mayim she'ulin. This is what we said about drinking from borrowed waters. Lo amru ela deshayalinu katan. That's only if a minor, somebody below the age, I guess, of 12 or 13, would have borrowed the water. A little funny. These shadim are funny creatures. Avogado leislan ba. People like you and me that are older don't have to worry for the borrowed water. V'afilu shayalinu katan nami lo amrin ela besada de lo shchichi. Also, when the child borrows the water, so it's only a problem if that borrowed water is in the field where there's not a lot of people around. So if there's not a lot of people, then the shadim will come attack you. But in a city where there are a lot of people, so then the shadim will not come attack. And even in the field, we're only talking about borrowed water specifically. But wine and beer, you don't have to worry. Then it says, if you pass over poured water, then the shadim could come attack you. Lo amrin, lo absakinu ba'afra, below tapahu roka. That's only if it hadn't been covered up in dirt, or if somebody hadn't spit in it to lose the identification of water. But if a person had spit in it, or it had been covered up by dirt, then you can walk over that over that spilled out water, and it's fine. And even that is only going to be a problem if the sun had not shone onto that water pile, or there hadn't been at least 60 people walking over the water. But if the sun had shone upon the water, or if you had 60 people come walking over it, then you don't got to worry. Another qualification is that you can't have somebody that rode their donkey over it and that they were not wearing sandals. But if somebody was going with their donkey over top of that water, or if you were walking with your sandals on that water, then don't worry about it. And another qualification, that's only in a place where you do not worry about kishuf, about magic. So fine, there's no shadim there, but there would be another problem of kishuf. So even if we meet all the qualifications, the shadim, the demons are not going to come to you. You still have to worry about regular old kishuf. It says, there was a man that was riding his donkey, and he was also wearing his sandals. And basically, the tree, I suppose, dried up, and the tree, or maybe the person, died. So if we believe in the kishuf, or if we believe in the shadim, so we really got to watch out. Baruch Hashem, today we don't have such issues. So here we are, Taner Rabbanan. The rabbis on the brisa. Shlosha ein mimatzin below mismatzin. So there's 3 different things that you can't have them walk in between 2 men, or a man cannot walk in between 2 of them. What are they? Ve'elohein. Hakelev, hadekel, ha'isha. You cannot have a dog walk in between 2 men, or a palm tree have 2 men walking around a palm tree, or a woman walking between 2 men, or the opposite. Like, let's say you can't have a man walking between 2 women. V'yesh omrim af hachazir, v'yesh omrim af hanachash. Some also add 2 more. They add a chazir, a pig, or also a nachash, a snake. What if you slip up and you do pass in between each other? Maitakante. What are you supposed to do? Amar Papa, niftach ba'el, nifsak ba'kel. So you're supposed to start with a pasuk. It is on the side. It says, I thought it was on the side. So there's a pasuk that starts with kel. You're supposed to say the beginning of that pasuk and the end of the pasuk. Or inami, there's another pasuk that says niftach below, not below, ibn nasik below. There's another pasuk that starts with lo, not kel. You're supposed to say the beginning of that pasuk and the end of that pasuk. Tosfos, interestingly enough, he says that usually we're not supposed to use Torah as a method of refuah, of healing a person. However, this is not considered refuah, healing. It's more a proactive magain, proactive shield, so that you would be able to use Torah for. Just like we know our own davening, we can daven before things happen, but after things happen, it's harder to uproot what Hashem has in store. then it says, how do you betray the matzlahu isha nida? So there were two men. If walks in between them a woman that is in her nida period, im tchilas nidasahi horeges echad mehen. If she's in the beginning of her nida period, then she has the potential to be able to kill one of them. The Gemara in Megillah says that was really Esther's plot to bring King Achashverosh and Haman to a Suda together, because she was in the beginning of her nida period and she thought that possibly that was going to be a way to kill Haman. And she wouldn't have to go about it by telling the king that she was Jewish. It says, Im sof nidasahi, if she's at the end of her nida period, then mariba osa b'neyan. Then it's going to cause strife, it's going to cause fighting in between the two men that she walks through. My takante, what are they supposed to do? Niftach makel, v'nifsak makel. Just like we said before, you start by the beginning of the pasuk and the end of the pasuk. Hani train nashi, diasin, the parshas drachim. There were two women. They were sitting by the street. One was on one side of the road, one was on the other. Chad b'hai gisa d'shvila, b'chada b'idach gisa. So we have one lady sitting on each side of the road. Umekaben apayu lahadadi, and both of them are basically looking at each other. Bade b'kshafim asikon. We say that for sure these women were involved in some type of witchcraft or kishuv. It's dangerous to walk down that path in between those two witches. My takanti, what are you supposed to do? If there's another path for you to go, so you should probably go the other way. Let's say there's only one way to go. Well, so then basically grab your friend, bring him along, and if you have a friend with you, then there's less chance of the kishuf affecting you. But if there's not another person, well, Nema Hachi Igeres Atlas Asya Belusia. So you name these four different kishuf people, different evil spirits, and you remind these women, Miskalta Bechik Kibel, that basically they were killed with an arrow. So it's basically reminding the witches that they're not invincible, that we can kill them. So that it's an incentive for them not to attack us. So something new. If somebody would see a man if somebody would see a woman as she was on the way home from the mikvah, it was her mikvah night. She dunked. She was about to go home to have tashmish with her husband. Well, if there's a man outside that's not doing what he's supposed to do, and he basically comes on to the woman before she's able to go home to her husband, there's a special type of demon that would attack this man. If she's the one that initiates it, she finds a man in the street that's not her husband, there's a special ruach, a special force that's going to take care of her. My takante, if chas v'shalom, a man or a woman were involved in this, what is the fix? Lemahachi. You're supposed to say this. Shofech buz on the dibir v'yisem betoho lo darech. It's a pasuk from Tehillim, basically saying that we want Hashem to put away his anger and put us on the right path. And hopefully Hashem will take care of us properly. And he'll get rid of those demons. Yitzchak, since we're in the business of psukim, my dichsiv, we say this hopefully every Shabbos by Shalosh Shudas. Gam ki elech begeit maves lo yirara ki atu imadi. Basically, putting me with Hashem, he puts us we're in the shadow of death.
Sometimes
right?
we say it at lunch too.
Yeah, we say it at lunch. You say it at lunch also?
I don't generally, except the lunch has lately become my shalashudas. So
I think my father-in-law, he would do it. He did all the askinu sudasas for every suda.
And they had music there by lunchtime, by the main meal.
Yeah. So the Gemara is asking, what does this pasuk mean? So it says, "Zeh hayashen b'tzil dekel yechidi u'b'tzil levana." So it's the person that's sitting in the shadow of one palm tree or of the moon. That's what is the shadow of death that then a person is going to succumb to attack from different spirits. That we say one palm tree, that's only where there's not a palm tree next to it that the shadow is going to sort of mix in, and then if there's two shadows on top of you, then the demons cannot come to attack you. But if that's true, if the two shadows, the shadow of its friendly neighbor tree over there join together, then the shadim can't get to you. We have a separate teaching brisa that says if you slept in the shadow of one palm tree in the chutzner, in a yard, vayashin b'tzel levana, or you slept in the shadow of the moon, dama barosho, it could cause death. Heichi dami. What's the case of that? If you tell me that there's not another shadow from its friend, then afilu basada nami. Then why didn't you teach in the brisa earlier that we're talking even about a field? Why'd you go out of your way to tell me chutzner? That's our question on the brisa. Alav shmami na. We're talking b'chutzner. Afagav denafil tula dechavri iluya. Even though that its friend's shadow did not fall on top of it, so there's still no way for the shaitan to attack you inside the chutzner. Shmami na. That's what we learned. Ubitsili shalavana. When we talked about the shadow of the moon, lo arin el b'ma'arava. That's only when the moon is in the west. Avo. But if you have an eastern shadow, so it's a western moon, which typically only happens at the beginning of the month, according to the Rashbam, so then you do not have to worry. We have about one more amud or so of just straight shadim and zugos type things, and then we're going to get into some more standard agadata, some practical halacha coming out of it also. So it says, Haiman de mafni agirda de dikla. If a person would basically relieve themselves on the stump of a palm tree, achtale lidide. So now something's going to be able to grab him. It's the ruach pauga, some type of paralyzing shade. They're going to be able to paralyze you. You're going to lose the capacity to walk. V'hai demad dematzli reisha agrira dedikla. And if a person would lean their head on the stump of a tree, achta leis ruach tzrada, you would be able to get what Rashi and the Rashbam refer to as half a headache. So it wouldn't be too good. I would have thought that it's because it's just not a comfortable place to put your head on the stump of a tree, but apparently there's some shadim that have the potential to come there as well. Haiman de pasi adikla, if you step over a palm tree, I guess if it's laying on the ground, well, imikdil kato, if the palm tree was chopped down, then a person will also be chopped down, i.e. they will die. Akar, mi akar umayis. If it was ripped out of its roots from the ground, and it was not chopped, then you will also be ripped out of your life, umayis, and you'll die. Hani mili, that's only talking about delo manech krai iluya. That's only where you did not put your foot on the tree. Al manech krai iluya leisan ba. But if you're so brazen as to put your foot on the tree, then you don't have to worry about it. Next is...
What's so special about this tree?
I'm not sure. A lot of this...
I'm sure it's figurative and illustrative like it goes deeper than what it's really saying, but...
I'm sure. I don't know if you had a different type of limud in Torah B'das. From my experience in Yeshiva Greater Washington and also in the Mir, so these types of Gemaras, they're important. We should learn them at least once. But most of the emphasis and the thought process thinking was spent on the Gemaras with halachic implications, and these don't. So they basically said, learn it, great, and move on. There's stuff that we don't understand. And we're not really meant to understand. Hashem runs the world. But we see it's there. It's a little exposure and weiter.
Okay.
What they say in Torah B'das?
We didn't learn this. We learned Elam B'tzias Bava Kama.
Right. I ran into a little bit in Sukkah. We learned Arbe Pesachim from beginning to end in Shiur Greater Washington, and that's basically what they told us, that there's stuff that we can't see, and that's okay. So we don't want to spend too much time on it because maybe the Shadim would come and attack us. But I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm sure there's people alive that do know the answer. I'm just not one of them, unfortunately. Okay. So it says Chamisha, or the Maseres Hashas, he changes it to Arba'a, because it actually is only going to list 4 different types of shadows. So it says Arba'a Tuli Habi. There's 4 different types of shadows. Tula de Dikla Yechida. There's the shadow that we just spoke about of one specific palm tree. Tula de Kanda, Tula of some type of Kanda tree. Tula de Parcha. A Parcha is like a caper bush, so the shadow from there. And the Tula de Zardasa, the shadow from some type of sorb tree. I'm not sure what these things are. Iged Amri, some say Af Tula de Arba, that a boat could produce a shadow as well, that Shadim could come attack you. The Tula de Arbisa, and also a Tula de Arbisa, some type of shadow of a willow tree. Think like Harry Potter, maybe. Klola de Milsa, the general rule. Actually, before we see this general rule here, so just to clarify something we said last night that we didn't have an answer to. There was another general rule the Gemara said back on Kuf Yud Amud Beis. It said that anything that's finished, biyadei shemayim, upstairs, then Shadim have the potential to attack you. But if they were finished by mankind, then Shadim wouldn't come. The Zugos don't apply. So the big question is, well, then what's the Gemara making us think about wine? Because wine is the thing that's finished with human hands. So why would there be Shadim in that? So I saw the Chazon Ish. The Chazon Ish writes, what does the Gemara mean? If it's finished biyadei shemayim, meaning that, when I say, so biyadei shemayim, there's always going to be a problem of zugos, no matter what number, even on the odd numbers. And then the Shadim could attack you by eating things that came from shemayim. But if it's finished by human intervention, like wine, that's when we're talking about there's a problem of 2. So that solves that problem over there. But the Klal de Milsa here, the rule that we just learned is called the Nafish Anfi Kashi Tuli. Anything that has a lot of branches is going to make a lot of shadows. But called the Kashi Siluya Kashi Tuli. And anything that has a lot of wood is going to make a lot of shadows as well. Lebar Machru Masa. Some type of tree called a Machru Masa is an exception to the rule. Why? Afagav de Kashi Siluya, even though that it has a lot of wood on this tree, Lo Kashi Tulia, to still not have a lot of shadow from that wood. The Amrle Sheda Libra Pirchi Nav Sheikh. So a shade would basically warn their son about this particular tree, and he says, son, get away from there. Machru Masa de Iuhu de Katili Avach. Your father was killed at this tree. So we see that there's not so much power to the Shadim here, and they were able to kill your father. But Katili Day, so you better watch out, or they're going to kill you as well. Amar Vashi, the first wide line on the page. So Amar Vashi, Chazina le Rav Kahana deparish mikulu. So they saw that Rav Ashi separating himself from all these different Shadim. He was scared of all of them. Tuli be parchi, ruchi de be zardasa, shade de be igri, rishpi, some other type of shade that was hiding up on the roof that he was worried about as well. And it says, L'may nafkamina. What's the difference categorizing all these different types of shades? A shade's a shade. Who cares? No, the Gemara answers Likamiya. The difference is if you want to come out with some type of vaccine against the shadim, some type of refuah against it, then each type of shade needs its own shot. Each type of shade needs its own type of medicine. Now they tell us about a new different type of shade. He didn't have any eyes. He couldn't see. What's the difference that one of the different types of shadim couldn't see? Well, that one's pretty easy. It says the gazuzela. If you want to run away from the shade, Well, try running away from a blind man. It's pretty easy because he's not going to be able to find you. It says, Zim Nechada, one time, have a Azal Serba Merabanan, the Afnuye Be Parchi. So one time there was one of the members of the Rabbanan, of the rabbis, they went to visit the house of Parchi. Shma Dika Asa Iluya. So once he heard that there was basically Shadim there, Begazila, so he ran away. Ki Azla Chavki Ladikla. So once the shade basically didn't know where he was going, he was chasing after the rabbi, and the shade basically starts hugging the tree. Samach Dikla Upakahi. And once the shade hit the tree, he dried up and died. Parcha debate Zardisa shady. Now we're going to talk about a different type of shade. Hazardisa desmicha lamasa. So he basically would hang out in the cities. Lo pachsa mishisin shady. Usually he didn't separate from at least 59 other of his type. These types of shadim hung out in groups of at least 60. L'mayin afkamina. What does it matter how many shadim? It's a popularity contest? No, it says again, l'michtav le kamiya. In order so that you know what type of medicine to get rid of those shadim. If they're popular, then they're going to, I don't know why these people keep calling. Sorry, I'm going to get the screen back. So, actually, I think it's a tzedakah call. I got to call back after the shiur. So it matters in the different type of medicine that you're going to make to get rid of those shadim. The little story. Hahu bar kasha. There was a watchman. He was a watchman de Masa. He was watchman of the city. The azav ekoi gabe zirdasa. So he hung out around these shadim that hang out in groups of 60. The hava samich lamasa alu beishisin shady is talking. So basically, the 60. You ever seen like a swarm of hornets before? So these 60 shadim, they all came to start attacking him. Asalahahu meirabanan, delo yada dezirdasa deshisin shadihi. So he went to one of his rabbis to write a prescription for medicine to get rid of the shadim. Kasavla kamiya lachada shada. So this particular rabbi that he went to did not know that this shade usually hung out with 59 other ones, and that there was a different medicine. So Shmad Talu Hinga Begavya. So he instructed him to basically hang instruments from his head. Because Mashuhachi Sudri Demar Keet Surba Merabanan. So the shade basically starts laughing at him. And he says, "You look like you're wearing the clothes of a rabbi." I don't know what that means. So how's a rabbi dress? So Bedikna Bemar Delo Yada Baruch. But basically, you don't know the ABCs of how to be a rabbi because you don't know that I hang out with 59 other shadim, and the kamiya, the medicine that you're writing, the incantation that you're writing to get rid of us, it's not going to work. Asa halume rabbanan diyadam dizirdasa shisin shady. So he went to another rabbi when he saw it wasn't working. This rabbi knew that this type of shade would hang out with 60 other ones. So have a kasavla kamiya deshisin shady. So he wrote an incantation to get rid of the 60 shadim. Shma deka amru panami naicha mehacha. And basically they heard the shadim say, "Let's get the heck out of here. We're not wanted here anymore." And the shadim left. Okay. Katav mariri trey. There's two different types of shadim that are called katav. Katvi havu chad makme tihara. One of the katavs would hang out before 12 o'clock noon. V'chad mi basir tihara. And the other one would hang out in the afternoon. So the makme tihara, katav mariri shemo, the one that hung out in the morning, his name was Mariri. Umixi bekada de kimka. Basically, you would always find him on the kutuch. Kutuch is like some dairy dip, kind of like sour cream. So this shade would hang out in your jar of sour cream for your chips. V'hanar be bechasha. And once he would leave the sour cream container, then he would go hang out on your milchig spoon. For those two places, you got to watch out for that shade. The basar tihara, the one for the afternoon though, katav Yishud Saharayim Shemo. They called him Yishud Saharayim. Umixi bekarna de iza. He would hang out on the how do you say it? The horn of a goat, right? V'hader be kanfi. And then when he was done hiding on the goat horns, he would go and hang out on people's strainers in their kitchen cabinets. So you got to watch out for those two places as well. Abai have a shakil v'azil, v'azil Rav Papa miyamini, v'Rav Huda brei Rav Yoshua mismoli. So Abai was going out on his path. He had Rav Papa on his right side, and he had Rav Huna on his left side. So you see three rabbis walking down the road. Chazilahu ketev mariri. They found the ketev that was hanging out in the morning, coming straight for them. The smoli, he was coming on the left side of him. So what does Abaye do? He basically realizes that the rabbi to his right is going to fare better than the rabbi on his left against the shade. So he has them switch. That's what it says. So Hadra Rav Papa is smoli. So he returns Rav Papa to his left. Rav Huna braid Rav Yoshua liyamini. And he has Rav Huna braid Rav Yoshua go to his right. Amarle Rav Papa, Ana Maishna, Deloch Shashli. Why are you picking on me? You got to put me in the line of fire over here? What's going on? Amarle, Ad Shaita Kainas Lacha, Mechad Tammuz, Ad Shitzar Bey. Listen, I know that you are only going to be attacked from the 1st of Tammuz until the 16th of Tammuz. Bade Shchichi, but Mekan Be'elach, Safik Shchichi, Safik Lo Shchichi. But from there on, it's a suffix. There's a doubt whether or not you're going to be attacked. I'd rather put the suffix, I'd rather take the chances with you than the other rabbi who's going to, for sure, be hurt in the line of fire. Umishachi Batuli, De Chatzba, De Lo Chatzav Garmida. Start moving on. There was some type of shrub. This shrub would not grow in Amma's height, say about a step's worth. It would not grow in Amma. Ubatuli did Safra, Upania de Lohavi Garmida, some type of other shrub that would not grow in Amma either. The Ikr Batuli de Beis Hakise. And there's another type of shadow that these small little plants would have over your Beis Hakise, over a bathroom. And inside of that shaded area from the shadow, you would get shaded. Amr Yosef, Hani Tlas Mili, Yavi Arbuna Gnahura. So these three types of things would cause a person blindness. Number one, Min Disrik Reisha Yavish. If you comb your hair while it's dry, then that could cause the shade to attack your eyes and you could become blind. Umin Dishasi Tip Tip. If you drink from a barrel that drips, like the noise, tip tip, right? So that could also cause blindness. Umin Desayim Masni. Also, if you would put on your sandals, or I guess your shoes in modern day times, out of Maisni Kroi, while your feet are still wet. So I guess that makes good business in podiatry. They'll come in with athlete's foot. So apparently it would cause shadim to come attack you as well. Then it says, Kashi if you would hang your food inside of your home, then it shows that you're not treating the food with respect. And that would cause a person to become poor. Kita ami inshi, tala silsa, tala mazuni. Once a person hangs their food, so Hashem basically hangs your parnasa, your salary as well, and says, you don't value my food? Well, I don't value you. V'lo amrin alarifta. We only say that by bread. Abo bistra b'kiri leislan ba orchihi. But by meat and by fish, we don't say that because that's just the general way. You always see in the slaughterhouse, the carcasses hanging there, and you see the salamis hanging out to dry. Fish, you see the same thing. It's the oreach ara. That's the way people do it. So that's not a problem. But specifically, treating bread improperly would be problematic. This is brought down in halacha as well. We try not to. I know Sfardim throw bread after hamotzi. Ashkenazim, we try not to throw it. If we have to throw it away, then it's nice to wrap it up in at least one bag before putting it into the rest of the garbage. I know in Yerushalayim, when we lived there for 4 years, you would walk around everywhere and you would just see loaves of bread sitting out in the bag, out of the bag, Birds would sometimes come and eat it, sometimes not. It would sit there and mold. But the philosophy over there is better for the bread to sit out and have the chance to somebody come to get it than to throw away the bread. Because the bread is so special, Hashem gives it to us, we want to treat it with respect. And if we don't, says the Gemara over here, then Hashem will not treat our parnasa, our salary, with respect either. Then it says, Pe'iri Besa Kashi Lianusi. So the bran in your house, if you just sort of throw it around on the floor and you don't treat it properly, that's also going to cause you to anias, to poverty. Then it says, Neshura Babesa Kashi Lianiusa. If you throw away breadcrumbs and just throw them all over the floor without treating them properly, that's also going to bring you into anias, into poverty. Beleli Shabbasos, Beleli Revius, Sharum Azikin Iluya, Isra Dimazuni. Here, let's do a little bit. So it says Leili Shabbasos Beleli Revius. On Friday nights and on Wednesday nights, then there are mazikin, there are damagers that are of spirits that are allowed to come and damage you. Shar mazikin iluya. So it's gonna tell us a few of their names. So it says Isra the Mezuni, Nakid Shmei, the anger one that would come to attack you. His name is Nakid. The Rashi and the Rashbam explain it comes from the word meaning clean. So if your house is not clean, then they would come to attack you. The other one, Isra the Aniyusa, Novel Shmei. So the one is named Novel. That one could also come to attack you. Apume de Chitzba, Kashile Aniyusa. If you put a plate on top of a barrel, that could cause a person poverty. We're gonna do just a little more, and then we're gonna be out of the shaded. Baruch Hashem. Then it says Ma Deshasi Maya Batsoi Kashi Le Borkasi. So if you would put water inside of a plate and then sort of fold it a bit, maybe it's paper plate, or not fold it, if it's ceramic, and you start drinking it, that could cause some type of growth in the eye. These shadim could come and attack you. Then it says the ochil tachli below mashi yadeha mafrid tlas and yomi. If you eat some type of cress, some type of cabbage plant, so that, and you did not wash your hands first, then that could cause you damage from shadim. You should be worried for 30 days. They have the availability to come attack you. Let's switch. Last Amud here.
Rabbi Forgash, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Not at all.
Can you make me the host and I'll move you to the breakout room?
Absolutely. Let's see. Awesome. Make co-host, right?
Make host so that when you sign off, it doesn't kick us off also.
Make host.
And then I'll make you a co-host.
Change host. Wonderful.
Make co-host. All right. And I'm going to assign the people who were with you to this Zoom breakout room.
Okay.
It should be open now. Chaim Stan. And you should pause your recording.
Okay.
And then just restart it when you're in the room, and it should carry through.
Got it. Okay. I guess Rob will be coming back in just a moment.
Where'd he go?
I'm not sure. It said it'll take a few moments, and then in just split second, it was boom. There he is.
There.
Okay, so here we go. So it says at the top of Kuf Yud Beis Amud Aleph, it says Demasukar v'lo mashi yadeh mafchid shiva yomi. If a person would let blood, we don't do this as much today. In Eretz Yisrael they do as medical treatment. So a person should be worried for 7 days if they don't wash. It says Deshaka mezir v'lo mashi yadeh mafchid tlasa yomi. If you take a haircut and you do not wash your hands after, then you should be worried for 3 days. We still are noeg to do this to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 after a haircut. Although people do not say this is necessary after shaving or a beard trim, that this is not considered so much hair that we cut off that it would warrant ruach ra coming onto us. Okay, same thing by tufri below mashiadeha. If you cut your nails and you don't wash, chadiyomi, you got to be worried for 1 day. Below yada ka mafchid. We're not sure exactly what we're supposed to be worried about, but there's something. We're still, for cutting nails and for cutting hair, we still practice this typically.
I wash my hands after each time.
Great. So then it says, yeah, in Eretz Yisrael, and the barbers, they have the washing cup right there. Makes it very easy. A lot of the barbers remind you, it's great. So yada usya deraga lapachta. If a person would basically touch his nostrils, then that would not only be seen as publicly inappropriate, but also a person would have to worry about ruach ra. Yada apusa darga lishinsa. If a person would basically be going like this on their forehead, it would cause them to go to sleep. Tana uchlin umashkin tachas hamita afilu mechupin bekli barzel ruach ra shora alehan. We should not keep food under our bed, even if you put it in like these plastic containers that we have today. They're still seen as not very good. So some explain that because when we go to sleep, our body leaves us, or not our body leaves, our body stays, but the neshama leaves us. So it's like a dead body. And that has the power to bring ruach ra onto the food that's below. That a lot of people still are worried about today. Taner banan lo yishta adam mayim lo b'leili revius lo b'leili shabbosos. It says that a person should not drink water, not on Wednesday nights and not on Friday nights. Be'im shasa dama barosho mipnei sakana. And if a person would drink water those nights, then you'd have to worry about some type of danger. My sakana, what's the danger? Ruach ra. Ruach ra, some evil spirit's going to come attack you. Ve'im sachi, but what if you're thirsty? My takante, what are you supposed to do? Well, it says, Shiva kolo she'amar David al hamayim. There are 7 verses that David HaMelech would say on the water. We say it every Friday night. V'hadar nishti, and then you go ahead and drink. Shnemar, kol Hashem al hamayim, el kol hirim, Hashem al mayim rabim, kol Hashem b'koach, kol Hashem b'hadar, kol Hashem shara arazim, v'yishavar Hashem az arzi halavanon, kol Hashem chosi la'avoseish, kol Hashem yachal midbar, yachal Hashem midbar kadesh, kol Hashem yichal ayalos, v'echasof yaros v'echalo kulo, omer ka-vod. V'ilo, hachila shafan anigron, nigderfun. So if you don't want to say all those things that David Melech said, forgot your sitter at home. So you start this incantation. These first few words in the first wide line, it says lul shafan anigron anigderfin. It's sort of like an abracadabra. It's the way that you start an incantation, and then the incantation is as follows: quote, "Bein kochvi yisibna, bein bli shemini azilna." We see that there's a difference between people of the stars and people that are a little more heavy. So what are we saying? That there's more than one person around. So you want to try and attack me for water? Well, watch out. There's somebody else in the house. The ilo, if you don't say that, the ika inish b'hadei nis ari. If a person is around in the home on that night, so you should wake them up. And you should say to that person, my name, so-and-so, bar, so-and-so, wants to drink water. And then you go ahead and drink water. If you don't want to do that, you have better midos than to wake the person up. So you can basically bang the lid on the barrel, and that would be okay. Scare off the shade. Drink. But if you don't even want to do all those options, you got more options. Nishtiba midi. You could throw something into the water, and I guess the splash would scare away the shade. You can drink. Fine. Taner banan. Lo yishta adam mayim, lo min anaros, below min agamim, balayla. You should not drink water from the river or from a lake at night. Be'im shasa, dama barosho, mipnei sakana. If you did drink from them, then you should be scared for danger. My sakana? What's the danger this time? Sakana shaviriri. So it's some type of shade that's going to cause you blindness. The sachi, my takante. But what if you're thirsty? What are you supposed to do? Ika inish bahadei Lemalei pani bar planasa sachina maya. Same thing as before. Tell your friend, I so and so am thirsty. Elo, you don't want to do that. Elin avshay palnya. So he Elin avshay palnya amr li imi is daher mishavriri shavriri. So then you're going to basically say to this shade, Ploni, meaning my name. Amr Li said to me, Imi is daher, you should be careful. May Shriri, so as you're talking to this shade named Shriri, you're going down in letters every time. May Shriri, Shaviriri, Bariri, Riri, Yiri, Ri. And by doing that, you're basically, it's freaking me out just saying it. So you'll freak the shade out as well. So it says, Sechina Maya, Bekasi Chiyuri. And then you could go ahead and drink from the glass, and hopefully the shade would have left already. Return to the Mishnah. It says that we need to drink a poor person, even if they do not have the means to buy 2 Shabbos meals a week, they still are obligated in all 4 glasses of wine. Says the Gemara, Pshita, isn't that obvious? Lo, Nitzricha, it's not so obvious. We need this teaching. Why? Afilu Rabbi Akiva. This is really to tell us, according to Rabbi Akiva, the Amar Asa Shabbat Chachol, V'Atzitz Tarech Labrios. According to Rabbi Akiva's opinion, in Masechta Shabbos, I believe. So he says, yes, in Shabbos. So he says, better for a person to make their Shabbos like a weekday rather than to go and bother the tzedakah organization to get food. So, but over here, Hacha Mishum Prisimei Nisa, in order to recognize the nace, the miracle that Hashem brought us out of Mitzrayim, so even a poor person such as this would be required to drink all 4 glasses. Tandave Eliyahu, Afabisha Amar Rabbi Akiva, even though the Rabbi Akiva said, Asher Shabbat Chachol, V'Atzitz Tarech Labrios, that you should make your Shabbos into Chol and not bother the tzedakah organization. But Osahu Davar Muit B'Toch Beso, he should still be able to have a little bit inside of his home, even on Shabbos. My Ninu, what are you supposed to have? Amra Papa Kasa Daharsana. You're supposed to have a glass of some type of bread fish. It's like a breaded fish that's fried in its own oil. Tanan, as we learned this in this brisa, Rabbi Yehuda ben Tema Omer, Havi Az Kanamer, Bekau Kanesher, Ratz Katzvi, Begibur Ka'ari, Lasas Ratz and Bicha Shabbat Shavai. So this sounds familiar to a lot of us, that we're supposed to be as brave as the Namer, as the cheetah. Bekau Kanesher, you should be as light as an eagle, and you should be running like an tzvi, like a deer. Begibur Ka'ari, you're supposed to be as strong as a lion in order to properly fulfill Hashem's will up in Shemayim. So we have the child's book we read to our children. There's a story. They go to the zoo and they learn a different midah from each of the animals according to this Mishnah. What do they learn from the namer, from the cheetah? Well, they learn you're supposed to be brave. So the kid, he's in public and he's scared of making his bracha out loud with all these other people around. So the mother tells him, "What are you doing? I hear you saying something very quietly. What are you saying?" And so he says, "Oh, I was a little bit too embarrassed in my bracha." So the mother tells him, "It's very cute. You're supposed to be brave like the namer, like the cheetah. No matter who's around, we should always do mitzvahs and be happy about it, not be ashamed of our Yiddishkeit." So too over here, we're supposed to be brave like the namer, like the cheetah, and go to the tzedakah organization to ask for enough money for wine. Fine. So the halacha comes out in the Shulchan Aruch that if a person has enough for 2 sudas, they should not go to the tzedakah, or they're not required to go to the tzedakah organization to ask for the 3rd meal, even though shalosh shudas is very important. But let's say a person was too poor, they didn't even make enough money to get 2 meals, they should go to the tzedakah organization, and the tzedakah organization should give them enough money for 3 meals. Once you're going there, at least do it right. So it says, Taner Banan, Shiv Devarim, Siva Rabbi Akiva, as Rabbi Yoshua Beno. 7 things Rabbi Akiva commanded his son. Bani, Al Tesha Begova Shel Ir. Do not sit on the top of the city, Betishna, and go ahead and start learning. Because if you sit in the middle of the city, then people are going to bother you. The best place to learn is where there's not a lot of people around. You also should not live in a city that's headed politically by Talmidei Chachamim, because if they're going to be so busy learning all the time, then how are they properly going to run the government? We see that we need all parts of Klal Yisrael everybody's got to learn a little bit, but some people are more engrossed in learning than others. The people that are not engrossed in learning as much should be running politics or other things. And you should not enter into your house pito. Don't rush into your home suddenly without knocking first. All the more so to the house of your friend, because maybe they'll be doing something behind the door that they would be embarrassed. So they want to do a little more in private. So we should announce ourselves before we come in. And that we learn from the Kohen Gadol. He had bells on his clothing. Why? Because there's no actual door to knock on going into part of the base of Mikdash. So he had bells for people to know he's coming. You're not supposed to take your shoes off from your feet when you're in public. It's not befitting for a Ben Torah to be walking around without shoes. A person should wake up early in the morning during the summer to eat, because once it gets a little bit too later in the day, well, without a good AC, it's hard to eat when it's hot. Your body's not going to be able to digest the food as well. In the wintertime, though, it's the opposite. You should get up early in the morning. When it's super cold, somehow the digestion works very well, better in the morning. But during the fall and the spring, then it's okay. You can eat whatever you want. That's why we brought this. One of the teachings that Rabbi Akiva taught his son was that if you're poor, it's better to make your Shabbos like a chol than to go bother other people to have to support you. And then you would have to basically go over to other people that are going to help you out. Amar of Papa, lo lemizban mine, lo lizvuni le. You should not basically involve yourself in buying and selling with other smart businessmen. Ella lemaver shutfis behadeh. You want to be smart to become a business partner. You don't always buy and sell, but you become a partner with them. V'hashid Amar Rav Shmuel bar Yitzchak. My dichsiv. So Rav Shmuel bar Yitzchak asked the question from what it says in this pasuk in Eov. It says, "Ma'aseh Yadav berchas kol hanotel pruta me Eov misbarich." Somehow they were always taking from Eov. So it says over there that they were always blessed. So if you know that you're always going to be blessed, afil lemizban minei lezvuni le shap your dummy, then it's okay. But once you get involved in these tricky businessmen, so sometimes they're on your side, sometimes they're not, depending on what mood they're in, when it benefits them, it's best to become a shotif with them, to join as a partner, but not to constantly be trading with them back and forth, because eventually you will lose out. Chamisha Devarim Sibi Rabbi Akiva es Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. 5 things Rabbi Akiva commanded or advised Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. Kashay chavush bebeis ha'isurin. Rabbi Akiva, we know, was locked up in jail many times. So one time Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai comes to visit, and he gives him 5 pieces of advice. Amrlo Rabbi lamdeni Torah. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai says to Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi, teach me some Torah. Amar ain't even lamdeich. Rabbi Akiva says, I can't teach you Torah right now. I'm locked up in jail for teaching Torah. The government doesn't allow. Why should I teach you now? Amrlo im ein atam lamdeni ani omer levichi abba umoser chol malchus. Says Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, listen, Rabbi Akiva, if you don't teach me, I'm going to go throw you to the fuzz. I'm going to turn you in and say that you were teaching me Torah. If you teach me Torah, I'll hush up. But if you don't teach me Torah, I'll go turn you in. So what do you have to lose? Amr lo, b'ni yosmi ma she'ha'egel rotze linak, par rotze lahani. He says, just like the mother cow wants to feed her, just like the mother cow wants to feed her child in nursing, even more than the child wants to drink, the mother wants to give. We see this in human mothers as well. It's a fascinating thing. So he says, just like that, just like you want to learn Torah, I want to teach you so badly. Amar lo, umi b'sakana, v'halo, egel b'sakana. Are you really the one in the sakana? The egel, the child, is the one in the sakana. So the student's saying, I'm really the one in sakana here because I'm not locked in jail yet. You are. You got nothing to lose, Rabbi Akiva. Why don't you teach me? And if I get locked up in jail, then it's my fault. I'll take the risk. Amar lo, im bikishis lechanek. So he begins to teach him. He says, im bikasha lechanek, hitla be'ilan gadol. If you want to hang properly, so you should choose a big tree. What does that mean? It means that if you want people to listen to the teachings you teach them, quote yourself in a big name. If you quote Rav Moshe Feinstein said X, then nobody's going to have any tightness on you. Because I didn't say it, Rav Moshe did. So when you teach a child Torah, make sure to use what's called a Sefer Muga. What's that? Ask the Gemara. Maihi. Amarava ve'itema Reb Mesharshi b'chadata. So Rava said it. Maybe Reb Mesharshi said it. He says it's if you teach a child what's known as shibeshta, came into all. If you make a mistake when teaching children, so they're going to take that mistake with them for the rest of their lives. It's a big achrayus to us for students, grandchildren, children, that we need to teach them properly. We might say, oh, they'll brush it off, they'll forget, they're just kids. But things that we tell to children make an impact. Then it says, Lo tevasha b'kedera shebishal ba chaverch. Do not cook in a pot that your friend has already cooked from. It sounds like maybe a cleanliness issue. Make sure to wash your dishes. No, that's not what it's saying. My niyu, what's it talking about? Grusha b'chaya baila. The Amar Mar, Garush Shinasa Grusha Arba Deos Bamita. This is the Gemara that they always try to tell high schoolers to try and get them to stay to Shomer Negiah. So it says that if two divorced people would marry each other, there's actually 4 people in the bedroom, because it's hard to let go from one's past. Obviously, if somebody's divorced, it's a mitzvah to get remarried, but that takes counseling. That takes a lot of change on a person's part. And so it's saying, make sure to not use your friend's pot. It's just a nice way of saying don't use your friend's spouse. It also says, Bibai Sema, one last thing for tonight. Another way of explaining this, don't use your friend's pot, is afilu bi'almana. You should not get married to an almana, to somebody that their spouse passed away. Lefi she'ein kol etzbos shavos. Because not all fingers look alike. Use your imagination, a certain body part that looks like a finger. So it says in the bedroom, not all fingers look alike. And that's why a person should stay away from marrying an almana. Again, don't stay away. There's a mitzvah for these people to get remarried. It takes a very special person to be able to do that. But it's also to tell our children, tell our grandchildren that Shomer Negiah is so important. Because it can, the things that it leads to could cause a lot of psychological ramifications. So that's that for tonight. We talked about some practical takeaways that we had. So we want to make sure that we're washing our hands right, left. I think I counted right. Total of 6. After a haircut, cutting nails, shaving or trimming a beard that's not considered chashuv enough, that Ruach Ra could come to attack us. We also said a poor person, if they have enough money for 2 sudas, they're not required to go ask the tzedakah organization. But if they don't have, they're not required to go ask the tzedakah organization for the 3rd meal, even though shalosh shudas is very important. But if they have below the amount of money for 2 meals, then they would go to the tzedakah organization, and everybody, or the tzedakah organization should strive to give them all 3 meals, because once the person comes to collect, we want to have them do it right. And everyone, no matter how poor they are, even if they don't have the money for 2 meals, they're still obligated in 4 kosos Seder night to drink all 4. Okay. Sorry, we went a little overtime, just maybe with the switch. Any questions?
This is easy learning.
Yeah, this is not so much learning, just reading through.
Yeah, it's a welcome again from the carbonos heavy sugyas of the last parak.
Right, and just another thing, Kuf Yud Daled or so. Yeah, Kuf Yud Daled in another daf and a half. So Sunday we'll see it. It's going to begin back into the Siddharim about what types of vegetables to use. So the karpas, all these different things back relevant to the Seder. That'll carry us through a lot of towards the end of the parak.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Have a nice night, everybody.
I might not be here tomorrow night, but we'll see. I have a meeting after work tomorrow, so I might get on late. So we'll see.
Okay. We'll see. Thanks for letting us know.
All right. I hope.
Bye.
Good night. Bye bye.